I was talking with Sana the other day about how 13-month calendar makes more sense, right? Like the lunar calendar.
Okay.
It's like every year would begin on a Monday and end on a Sunday and have 13 months that are 28 days each. And it aligns perfectly with the lunar cycle, right?
Why didn't they? Why haven't they gone with that?
Because
then? It's just
because the system's built to divorce people from real natural cycles
Really?
and
is
impose.
it just that when they came up with the current, was it Gregorian?
It's Gregorian,
calendar? They just didn't have enough knowledge of.
I have no idea
Solar
what it's
timing or
based
something?
on.
Yeah.
No, I mean like the 13, like the lunar calendar is ancient, probably,
Yeah.
right? It's probably the oldest system, if I had to guess, right? Because it's literally just a like calendar in the sky, basbasically, that you can watch
just
pretty
following
consistently,
the
right?
moon, right?
Yeah. So I don't know if I had to guess why they didn't go with that. Like I don't know, paganism, witchcraft sounds like words that might have been used to
Well, but
dissuade people from that.
the calendars are pretty. That's still pretty late in the game. I mean, before, like Rome, I think the Romans had a fairly sophisticated calendar. Even before.
What kind of calendar do you know?
Was it? Well, there's a few different ones. I think it was a Roman one, and then Julian was another one.
Yeah, there was the one that the USSR was on.
Oh, they're on a totally different one?
Yeah, but yeah, I remember there being like some weird few days in the 80s where they like had to like switch over to the Gregorian calendar,
Oh, really?
80s or 90s or something.
Okay, yeah. So there's
Yeah.
like missing time in there. Or
I think
something,
so,
or-
yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't there.
There's a science fiction novel by this writer called Lawrence Miles, and there's this like time traveling group that like has bases in like those missing days. So like they occupy periods of time like between calendars. So like it's like February 31st on like a leap year is like a period they exist in or something.
Yeah,
which kind of doesn't
29th,
really
make, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
which kind of doesn't really make any sense, but it's still just that idea that they're like kind of in these like interstitial in between kind of periods where supposedly nothing is there. But
it reminds me of another system. I don't know when this was around, but it was like every year, I want to say medieval times or something. It was like every year had 360 days, and then there were like 5 or 4 days that were just like holidays, like the original holidays, because they literally like weren't a part of the calendar system.
Okay, yeah,
like
yeah,
it was
yeah.
just like time that was
There's
not
extra
accounted for,
surplus time or something. Yeah.
and I don't know what their function was, but it was, I don't know, yeah, like possibly to replace leap year type stuff or something. I don't know, fix alignment, but I just pulled this up on ChatGPT. So the Gregorian calendar was introduced Pope Gregory 1582 to replace the Julian calendar, which was in use since 46 BCE. Julian calendar miscalculated the length of a year by 11 minutes, which caused like drift from the solar year. To correct this, the Gregorian reform adjusted leap years and skipped 10 days in October 1582 to realign with the equinoxes.
Again, it says that the Julian calendar was apparently coming from Julius Caesar. That's interesting. I thought it might have been Emperor Julian, who was kind of the last pagan emperor of Rome.
Why wasn't the lunar calendar adopted?
Which was largely a lunisolar one. Yeah.
Adopted.
Interesting.
Wasn't adopted because it does. Yeah. So lunar calendar doesn't align with the seasons. So I think like the seasons would basically drift through the year. Yeah. So seasons would drift, but that's kind of normal, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, even like astrology, like most of the if I remember right, everyone's actual signs are like one ahead or something based on where the constellations were versus where they are now.
Oh, like the system is older than like what is reality now or something?
Yeah, something like that. So there's supposed to be another one, like another Western zodiac, like Ophidius or Ophiuchus or something.
Oedipus?
Like I think it is like a snake or something.
Being born in the sign of Oedipus.
If I remember right, let me see what it is. But yeah, so
well, snake is Draco, right?
That's dragon, right? Or
yeah,
but that's not a Western.
But so the point is just that there's another zodiac that isn't like in the system.
Okay, yeah, it's one of the 48 constellations. Let me see if it comes up here. Okay, yeah, so it's been sometimes suggested as the 13th sign of the zodiac.
What was the name?
Ophiuchus.
Okay,
because it's a constellation. But
or the Mayans.
looks like there's some controversy.
Always is
about
right.
This, yeah.
Were the Mayans using the lunar calendar? The Mayans had that concept of the precession of the equinox, right?
Yeah.
Where, what was it, like the Earth's wobble along its axis causes the equinox to actually shift.
Okay.
Or something. Can't quite remember.
Lunisolar calendar, yeah.
But
Ethiopia has its own one too. Seems like it seems like we're probably just like stuck with what we have for the moment because it's too. I feel like there's too much invested to.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well, it's funny because the world nowadays actually runs off the like Unix epoch. Have you heard about this?
No, what's that?
So it's basically the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970, if I'm not mistaken.
Why? Did they like get a precise
I don't know.
Or something
I don't know what if they measured anything, but that was basically time zero as far as like modern computers are concerned.
Computer systems?
Yeah. And everything like when you're programming and you do like, get time now, like what you get back is the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970.
But was there like some clock they actually like started then, or is there?
It's a good question. I mean, they must have done something, or I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you're not getting that time from some single source of truth, right? Like you're just getting it from the computer, basically.
Yeah. So it's just like an arbitrary.
Yeah, it's just a consensus.
Point.
Yeah, but you have to count in relation to something. So I guess like when a website tells you the current date, like that's always like there's a function that formats the Unix epoch time into like a human readable date.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
But as far as like the computer is concerned, it's like 10 million
seconds or something,
like something like that, right?
Wouldn't that get kind of like wonky over time? Because like wouldn't it have to keep logging this like insanely huge?
I mean, it's not that big, right?
That big.
Yeah, it's not that big yet, but yeah, eventually,
seconds.
Eventually, you need to reset it, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if we're talking like like 10 million years into the future or whatever, like that would be a pretty ridiculously big.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could like put it in.
You'd probably just zero it again.
Zero it and cube it or whatever with the.
Well, you'd probably they'd probably just pick another date to call zero again, but. Yeah,
that's so weird. Does that have anything to do with like Y2K or whatever, or is that a different issue?
Y2K was based on that. Let's see. No, so yeah, back then even probably Unix epoch was used as like the
you probably don't remember Y2K, like actual Y2K.
Not too much about it. I mean, like even as a kid, I remember it being a thing.
Yeah, it was definitely like a real thing.
Well, like my mom had to like. She was like on the team at her company at the time that was responsible for making sure that they were like ready for it. But yeah, I mean, what was the situation like?
Well, I mean, yeah, like people were. I mean, you had the usual group of people that were like prep. Yeah, they were like prepping their bunkers and thought there was gonna be like a war breaking out, or random nuclear
Yeah, like
warheads
all the
were
nukes would just
fire at once or
randomly go.
something, or-
Yeah. Because that's how the systems are built. That oh
Yeah.
no, we don't know what time it is.
just
Therefore,
randomly launch
fire.
everything. Yeah. No, there was a lot of. I remember I was watching, just like I was just a little kid. Well, I wasn't that little actually. I was like probably 13 or something. But, yeah, no, I was watching just like the news, and they're like profiling all these like preppers, and they're like taking it really seriously and stockpiling.
What were they prepping at the time?
Just like bunkers full of food and water and weapons and stuff.
Were they hoarding gold? Was it all the usual stuff? Has prepper culture changed over the years?
I think it's just become more mainstream.
Just more mainstream.
But it seemed like they were definitely doing off on this whole prepper thing, where
burying buses in their backyards.
I guess, yeah. I mean,
serve as bunkers.
Yeah, so everyone was a little bit surprised when it actually became 2000 and like our computers still worked, and like, there's no real change that much.
It sounded like there was actually work to be done, but I mean, like, it was, again, like, as far as the computers are concerned, they were, yeah, I mean, the issue would have been if you had something that was like parsing a like year, month, day string into like a time. And I guess if that formatter was broken, then you could like get the wrong time out of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think all computer systems would have already been counting
that one.
Yeah.
Well, most people were just running like, I don't know, Windows 95 or something. So
well, that's not launching any nukes, so I don't think there's too much concern. Yeah. Well,
still the best Windows, I think, incidentally.
95?
Yeah.
Wasn't 98 better?
I'm trying to remember. I don't think there was much difference with 95 and 98.
Well, it's usually the second release is like every other release is typically good.
I just remember those ones being like insanely stable for some reason. And then like literally every other Windows since that has had some weird issues, or like just things are, I don't know, a pain in the ass or something.
Yeah,
the one where it started annoying me was Vista.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that was probably the biggest failure, I think.
I remember I bought some laptop. I think it was actually like the first laptop I ever bought, and I was really excited about it, and it came with Vista, and like I think after about like it only lasted like 5 months or something, and it just, both the software and the hardware seemed to just break down in like less than a year, until it was basically just junk, and I was like, wow, this is
the software was quite bad. I remember being like, because I got the same thing, like I got a Vista laptop right when it came out, and like the Arrow theme was like really,
it was these like
beautiful.
Weird translucent logos or something,
Orby translucent,
like it looked cool, but cool. It just it wasn't
optimized at all. It was like really laggy, and basically broken.
And after that, XP, I guess XP was okay. Like XP was more back to,
well, that's before Vista, right?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it was 95, 98.
That shows how broken my brain is. That I seem to remember XP was like after Vista or something.
No, XP was before
XP was
Vista.
Before it? Okay.
XP was after 2000 and before Vista. I'm trying to remember if there was another one in between there.
Oh no, I think the reason I think that is because I actually, after that shitty laptop with Vista, I just bought, because I think I was already in Japan by then, so I just bought like a really basic desktop with XP. Yeah. And then that was like functional.
So you like went for back kind of.
Yeah, like I literally.
Is that what you still have?
Well, it lasted me close to like, I want to say close to 10 years.
Well, I think it was only a few years ago that Microsoft officially discontinued security patches for Windows XP.
Well, I remember it, like both the extremely basic computer and the XP were fine and functional for like probably like 8 years or something. Yeah. Whereas like the Vista laptop was like under a year.
Yeah.
A year. So it's like what?
Yeah, no, Vista was terrible.
Yeah.
I think they were really ambitious with kind of like the UI improvements and making it look very modern and sleek.
Yeah.
But I think like everything in the back end was just not optimized at all. Yeah. But yeah, XP was, yeah, I'm sure anyone who was using computers at the time would just feel very nostalgic over even like seeing the like background, like I think it was called Bliss, but it's
isn't that like a new, that's like some style. It has like some,
well, it's like vaporwave aesthetic, or
no,
you kind of,
but it's a different one. Like it's called it has some, like, I think it's actually, it's hard to remember because I think it's like actually named after the designer or something.
like the style is called that?
Yeah,
or
let me
is
see if I
this
can,
fashion or what?
Yeah, well, it's like both fashion and design.
But it's based off of how like the operating system looked, or what?
Yeah. Let me see if I can actually. Oh yeah, it's called Frutiger Arrow. This is a whole aesthetic movement that it was around at that time.
Okay, right.
Which kind of looks like Windows XP.
Yeah,
right?
so I wonder if Vista, because the Vista theme was called Arrow as well. So I wonder.
It might have been the same.
It's probably a reference to this.
It might have been the same designer, but
interesting. Yeah.
But this is, I think this is like coming. Yeah, there's like videos about it, like Gen Z's make believe nostalgia for. So I think like people are trying to like revive this now, or like do, I don't know, like come up with fashion based on it, or do some.
Do you like the Y2K fashion stuff that's around now?
Yeah, I think it's more distinctive and interesting.
It's more distinct. I find it kind of funny though how it's like, I don't know.
Like ugly.
Yeah, I guess ugly and worn by, people who weren't even alive when it was around, I guess. But I guess that's always how fashion works.
Well, no one like.
I mean, I don't even remember that style either. I was in like grade 1 or whatever. Like, it wasn't really around.
It was a thing, but in practice, it really blended into the late 90s fashion. So like, if you watch there's usually a good test for this. Like if you watch music videos from like, I don't know, 1998, 1999. Like you can sort of see it starting to cross over.
Okay.
Where like people are still kind of in that like grunge kind of heroin fashion, but it's starting to get like more futuristic. So like people are wearing like, I don't know, like silver eyeshadow and like kind of like more metallic colors, and like things are getting a little bit, everyone's got like spiky gelled hair and like kind of this sort of more.
Did people like look that way at school, I guess? Because like I get the like in sync,
not really,
like,
man. Yeah,
I mean it's like high fashion type shit, right? Like it was completely divorced from like what people were actually wearing, right?
Well, people were certainly using a lot of hair gel.
Okay.
I mean, that's like, I think that's the only period in my life I've like ever actually used gel, because it's like turns your hair into like crunchy garbage, right? But but yeah, everyone was gelling their hair, and they had very like spiky haircuts, and like so yeah, there was sort of real life overlap, but again, as usual in real life, like most people just wearing jeans and t-shirt.
Were Jinko jeans like widespread?
Yeah.
So people were wearing like the huge.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was like the first.
That completely.
That was like the first fashion item I think I independently.
Jinko specifically.
Or a very similar brand of these like comically baggy
Wrangler
floppy jeans, which and my parents were like, "Wow, this is gonna like suck up all the urine on the floor of every public restroom you go into."
It's a valid concern.
Yeah,
I'd be concerned about that.
That's
too.
literally what you'd have to like. It's like you're a bride or something. Like if you're going if you're like taking a piss in like the truck stop or something, you have to like lift up your jeans so they don't like suck up the soak up the ambience from the floor.
Yeah, this is precautions everyone should be taking. I agree.
But yeah, no, that was like a real, like, people were certainly wearing very baggy pants for fairly long. I mean, for most of, so when people started wearing like skinny jeans again or like tighter clothes, it kind of was like a real change because it's like, wow, we've been wearing these like super baggy clothes, which weirdly are like coming back now. So I sort of am like walking around and I'm like seeing, girls dressed like when I was in like first year of junior high school or something, which seems really strange, but
I don't find it aesthetic at all. Like it's very much in the intentionally ugly direction or something.
Well, when Aaron and Valerie came here, Aaron Lang from Stone Church Press,
from McDonald's.
From McDonald's, yeah, he does go to McDonald's and eats those fries, I think. But I took them to La Forêt and Harajuku,
right?
And I hadn't actually like looked around inside there for quite a while, but it was like, it just looked like a '90s recreation time capsule. It's hard to explain, but yeah, like the staff were like wearing a lot of like midriff exposing tops and like kind of like hip hugger baggy pants and like just like things that you would like see in music videos from like 1998 or something. So yeah, there was that crossover where it kind of turned into Y2K fashion. But as to whether people were wearing it in real life, I mean, yeah, people were wearing very baggy clothes and certain hairstyles and certain kind of items.
The items, so yeah, like I'm fine with the midriff exposing stuff. I'm fine with the baggy pants, the kind of hip huggers, I think, as you put them.
Yeah.
What I can't stand is the stupid glasses.
The
round sunglasses with like it's hard to explain. It's like the frame is larger. I don't know. They just look like bug-eyed or like silly or something. It's like kids' plastic glasses.
Yeah.
These are fine. These aren't that at all.
These are standard.
These are standard issue.
Standard issue.
I don't even know what you would call that style, but yeah, it just looks ridiculous, and the way it sits on your face is ridiculous. It's just all around, I think, a unaesthetic item.
Yeah. Well, I was reading this like aesthetics wiki, and like I think the Frutiger Aero, which is like the Windows XP look.
Is it like ironically ugly? Is that the aesthetic?
No, it is supposed to be like quite optimistic and blissful and it's like dolphins and shiny bubbles and stuff. So apparently this actually was almost like a reaction to the Y2K look.
Oh, interesting.
Because I think the design sense was more like the Y2K sense was more like hard metallic.
Yeah. So it's corporate America's response to Mad Max.
Well, I mean, I want to say like corporate America's response to like cyberpunk, I guess.
Cyberpunk.
Well, even though it's like
cyberpunk's pretty sleek.
Oh yeah, but it's like metallic-y, chrome kind of, look, still kind of industrial look, whereas this like Frutiger Aero is this like quasi, green open fields and dolphins and bubbles and kind of pseudo
smooth gradients,
smooth gradients and like pseudo natural nature kind of stuff, which was around, I guess, for a bit. But I mean, no one again, unless you were like maybe working in the Windows design office or something, like no one was like, I don't think there was like much actual cultural penetration like there was with Y2K. Like Y2K actually had real life fashion that people were wearing, but no one, I don't think anyone was trying to be like proto vaporwave in real life that much at that time. At least not that I can remember. Well, that was like early 2000s, so that was more like like hipster fashion,
Mm-hmm.
which I do think is awful in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think the Y2K fashion is awful in a good way, or like sort of like the early '80s fashion is awful in a good way. I don't know how you could. I think the hipster Williamsburg kind of fashion is just unretrievably bad.
Well,
Where
I guess elaborate. What is it? Just like too far up its own ass or something?
I just think it's boring and not particularly creative.
Mm.
You know, it's like grow a. Even at the time, I was like why are people dressing like, you know, like growing Victorian era beards and wearing trucker caps, and
there is a novelty to ridiculous facial hair.
Yeah, but I think it quickly burns through its grace period or interest period. So I was really that was one of the reasons I sort of got into Japanese fashion originally, because I was just so traumatized by like early 2000s hipster fashion. I was like, there's got to be some kind of alternative, because like I'm not about to like wear a fucking trucker cap and drink Pabst or something, which is the worst beer I've ever tried in my life. So yeah, I was like, there has to be like some plausible alternative to what people my age were dressing like at that point.
What I hear now is big is a lot of like workwear stuff, like Carhartt blew up and went from like being a like actual kind of blue collar workwear brand to I guess
getting like reappropriated by like university students or something.
Yeah, well, university students or I don't know, young professionals or whatever. But everyone's dressing like they're a dock worker when meanwhile they work at Facebook or something.
Yeah, I think that sounds pretty stupid too.
Yeah,
right? I don't know if I would.
I know fundamentally all fashion is cosplay, right?
Yeah, but I do think there's a distinction between things which are ugly in like an interesting way versus just not terribly usable or whatever, revivable, I guess.
Where does I mean, this is an old question, but like, are aesthetics objective or subjective?
Objective in what way? Like
is something is there objectively beautiful fashion or objectively pleasing fashion?
No, but there's different
there's definitely objectively displeasing fashion, or like right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how scientifically objective even that is, but I think there's things which can have. I would look at it more like there's things which have greater or lesser possibilities, I guess. I want to say. Well, that's why like the 80s fashion I felt like had more. Yes, bumping over here
like that.
Yeah, trying to get
that works
standard here. I feel like the reason the 80s fashion kind of hasn't really died or was revived for so long is because it did have like more dynamic possibilities that could like sort of go in different directions. But like early 00s fashion, I think they are trying to like sort of revive it now, is like,
well, it seems pretty revived now.
Indie sleaze or something is a term that I've heard, but again, most of it to me, it just seems incredibly boring and kind of like not
derivative,
derivative, right? Yeah. So I remember thinking that even at that time, I was like, wow, like I really don't want to dress like these like Williamsburg kind of, or like New York kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're living there, so you're kind of at the center of the hipster movement, or
and
in the
I remember the
blast radius, I suppose.
At the time, I was definitely like, "Wow, this is like such awful style. Like, gotta find something, better, or find something more."
I'm just pulling up some photos to try and understand.
Well, indie sleaze is like a reconstruct. I mean, again, this very much wasn't
ever a fashion.
Wasn't actually a thing at the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it's like a reconstruction of what people now thought like the early 2000s were or something.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I can't even get like a cohesive image out of it. Like
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of like faux fur coats and like fishnet stockings and then just a lot of mismatched apparel that like I know it's something that like a 10-year-old girl would like first put together while experimenting with fashion or something, right?
There was a period where people were wearing, I think what people think is indie sleeves from that era was actually in that era people trying to like revive the 80s actually, because again, like almost all, like the thing with the 90s is like until the very Y2K end, like no one was wearing colors really. Like everyone was wearing drab clothing or like monotones or like gray or like kind of pastel or something, or like no one was. Again, like if you look at music videos up until about 1997 maybe, like everyone's just in like plaid or like gray or like black or white or so there's that whole period where like there wasn't really much color, right? And like if you did try to wear like a, I don't know, bright pink shirt or something, like you'd either get attacked or like, I don't know, people, and I know because I did try this, and you know, people would think you were like nuts if you like wore very bright colors or something,
like a neon orange t-shirt and camo-esque pants or something.
Well, yeah, or just
this outfit would get you killed in your childhood.
Maybe this would have been okay, but if you're wearing like, people just certainly weren't wearing very bright kind of stuff, right? And so I think the early 2000s, like that actually started coming in again, and like people were wearing brighter colors. But it felt like at the time, most people were just trying to like revive the 80s or something. So they weren't thinking of it as like their own like indie sleaze or something. So people were doing that. And then the whole hipster thing was happening at the same time, which is like, like grabbable beards and trucker caps and, you know, fixed gear bikes and stuff. And also kind of like ripping working class, you know, like dock
it's
worker.
Probably the beginning of it, right?
That's another reason I didn't like it, because it's like some, you know, university student that's like trying to dress like a trucker. You know? Like he's got very like, he has very like well maintained trucker caps that are in like mint condition or something. Like actual trucker caps are covered in sweat stains and you know, nicotine and fucking so that's another reason I didn't like it. I was like, stop trying to dress like a trucker when you've literally never driven a truck in your life, or you know, this kind of there's kind of that element to it as well. Or like what, like I don't think anyone's drinking Pabst because it's a great beer. Like people would just drink it because it's cheap, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you know, if you can afford a better beer, like just drink a better. Like, not about to drink some shitty beer just because it's, you know, discount price or something.
Yeah.
But so I really hated that kind of whole scene at the time, which was big for a while. But there was this kind of like 80s revival, kind of brighter fluorescent style at the time too, which I did think was more interesting, or more possibilities at least. But I'm not sure if it ever really well, I don't know. I guess people are trying to revive it now. But
I don't know. I was completely disconnected from all of this. Like I would say my first, like the kind of aesthetics that were imprinted on me in early fashion would have been, or childhood, I guess, would have been like preppy fashion was popular, circa 2006, let's say. So like Aeropostale, American Eagle
and Abercrombie kind of stuff.
Hollister. Basically that. And I feel like that almost kind of persisted through the end of high school.
That was like
well, that's sort of elementary to high school.
That was like sort of mainstream kind of That was like the people I wouldn't get along with in high school or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, like people that are just like wearing.
There wasn't really
that kind
any
of,
like alternate fashion, really. I mean,
the
there were like some kind of
mid
gothy
mid
people.
2000s.
Yeah, like not in my social circles, not
people
in my
were-
school, really.
I would imagine people were. I mean, I was in university by then, but I would imagine people would be still doing like emo and
It was
kind of like scene looks. And
yeah,
stuff.
but there's like maybe like one person at the school who's like actively trying to do
trying
that.
to do that. Yeah, it's just the lone emo kid that is trying to do it. It's kind of funny.
Well, I mean, maybe it was almost more like the lone kid whose parents allowed them to go into that direction, and
allowed
then maybe
them to wear a white belt and gray jeans.
Yeah.
And, I don't know, Atticus shoes or whatever.
I don't even know. I mean, but the aesthetic's basically black. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if it was just my region or what. I can't remember there being too much like actual fashion or real brand awareness beyond like mainstream sort of stuff.
If it wasn't like a real big city, then there's probably less people doing distinctive kind of like scene looks or whatever. But yeah,
and then in university, I think the main sort of fashion influence that I was aware of at least was sort of like hype culture, right?
Okay, yeah.
So like Yeezys and Jordans and Supreme and Bape and like Anti-Social Social Club, like that all kind of came in, and I think that largely came in through like Chinese student body.
Chinese
like,
people were influencing it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like my university had a lot of foreign, well, Chinese specifically, mainland China students, and they would. They're
into like hype beast
basically
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know. I guess like the brands I'm interested in now aren't too different from that, but maybe a little bit less fobby in your face kind of hype culture, I guess. Yeah. But like do you know Denma?
Denma sounds familiar. Yeah.
So he's behind Vetmall, right? He started Vetmall, and I believe he's currently the designer for Balenciaga.
Oh, right.
Which is, I think, quite Y2K fashion oriented.
Yeah.
But
that's kind of when that started blowing up. Like,
was Balenciaga around back then?
I seem to remember.
Really?
It seems like it goes pretty far back. I'm trying to remember.
Really?
Actually,
it's got to be in the last decade, no?
It seems like it's earlier. I might be remembering wrong, but
trying to pull this up here to double check in live time.
Yeah.
Because okay, hold on. That's founded 1919. Wow, that's crazy old. I didn't realize.
That's what I thought, man. Like I was thinking it was.
So what were they up to back then?
In 1919.
Yeah.
Just releasing music videos and stuff.
Balenciaga?
Nah, I'm trying. Yeah. I mean, what, like Gucci was from around that time too, right?
Yeah. Okay. So it looks like they're just doing like suits and stuff. Like they're pretty
these guys are just tailors, man. Like, so Gucci was just, I think his name is actually Gucci. I mean, he's just like a tailor who I think was making leather bags or something too.
Once I keep talking.
Yeah, so they're just like well-known or successful tailors that were cutting suits and making trying to remember making leather bags, I think too. That's why I always thought like another good science fiction film would be like people with a time machine to Gucci, where he's like an Italian tailor in like, I don't know, 1925, and people go back and show him like rap videos from like the mid 2000s where it's like Gucci,
right,
bitch, and right, and he's just like, he just has to like react to it.
That would be such a weird trip to like.
Or like if people in the future were like creating subcultural efforts using your name.
But I mean, also like in the way that completely like eschews what you're doing at the time, right?
So he's like a Italian tailor who's like probably concerned with like, you know, like
Prim and properness and
material quality for
Right.
like, you know, linen suits and, you know, going out and having like a pork chop with some wine with his family. And then there's like rap videos of like Americans in the next century that are like
with diamond grills,
going around
and,
with grills
yeah.
and like, you know, using your name as like the hook of their song.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like concept drift or something.
Mm-hmm.
What there's another thing where like I mean that happens to brands anyway. Like, you know, Courvoisier
What's that?
is like well, alcohol or like
Okay, I was gonna say it sounds like a
alcohol
drink
brands
or beer.
that get popular with demographics they're not initially marketed to.
Mm-hmm.
But certainly like
is Hennessy an example?
I'm trying to remember, it might be. But certainly like over 100 years where there's like no, like how would like Gucci process that? If, like that's what.
Well, it just seemed like a fever dream or something.
It probably
right?
would seem like he was just like tripping out or something. Where it's like you just lock him in a room and just force him to watch rap videos for like 8 hours and until his own name no longer means anything to himself.
Right.
And it's just like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like, am I Gucci?
Right.
Am I? He's like, it must be. What if I'm not? You know, he just has like a.
What if he just has a mental break?
Depersonalization crisis or something where he's like, is it just guns, bitches, and bling? Is that all that? Is that all I am? Am I not the man I thought I was or something? Right? You know, he'd probably. I wonder if that would give him a mental existential breakdown or what it would mean. Did they make him? I'm trying to see if they made. Was it House of Gucci or they made some?
Was it Gucci? Was it Versace?
No, I think they did make a. I think they did make a film about him.
Yeah, I think it was Gucci. I heard it was good. I didn't watch it.
He survived, and it looks like he survived until 1953. But I still don't think he would have anticipated or been able to deal with hip hop videos from the early 2000s or
now.
Now.
Yeah. Still around, right?
Yeah. Who did
but yeah, so
Gucci Gang with Lil Pump,
right. Well, then there's like Gucci Mane as well, I believe is the name of a lyricist.
Like, would he try to like contact Lil Pump and like write him a letter?
I think like, he would just like,
why are you starting a gang in my name? Or like, I don't know. It's just something to think about. If you had the time machine, what would reactions be?
Right.
I mean, no one can really know that. Like, presumably, if you create something, like someone could like revive it in the future and like turn it into something
right
totally like you know, Bram Stoker, Count Chocula, like it's turned into a breakfast cereal,
right?
But like
like from Dracula to Count Chocula,
so he like Bram Stoker wouldn't know what cereal was, so like there's a further remove of reference where like he doesn't know what breakfast cereal is because it doesn't exist yet,
right?
And like not only is that, but it's like connected to him in some obscure way that like doesn't really
make sense. Doesn't really anyone
seem to make sense.
Yeah,
but
just
mythical,
cultural icon,
cultural drift or something.
Yeah.
But he was like a. If I remember right, Bram Stoker was like a theater director or something. So everything he was concerned with in real life was probably like staging physical plays and stuff. Like he wasn't thinking about breakfast cereal or the Count from Sesame Street,
right?
Which is like.
Well, so did he invent the concept of a vampire, or did he just popularize it?
He just popularized it. I mean, there was vampire books before that too, but that was just the one that sort of blew up.
Was he the first to be called Count?
Count vampire? I think so. I'm trying to remember if they were like aristocratic. I think there was like some novel called like Varney the Vampire or something, where it's just like some normal, I don't know, like carriage driver or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not like no aristocratic.
My mind went in so many directions as you said that. So
Varney the Vampire.
So it went Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but then it also went Barney.
Yeah, I think it's called Varney. Let me see if I can log it up here.
A purple and green dinosaur that's out for blood.
I haven't read this because apparently it's like we were talking last time with the Pulp Fiction or something. It's like 1,000 pages long or something. But
Varney the Vampire Slayer. Varney, interesting.
I think this is from like 1850 or something.
Oh, not the Slayer, okay, or the interesting. Okay.
So I guess it's just a book about a vampire. I don't really know what the actual.
Was that the one to introduce the like red and black cape association with a vampire?
Yeah.
Man, so many questions. Where does this all come from? Like who put this all together?
It says it first appeared in.
When did the teeth come in?
Yeah. I don't know. It first appeared in 1845, so that's pretty long ago.
Were they always associated with bats?
Okay, wait. So it says, is a tale of the vampire. Okay, he is an aristocrat, Sir Francis Varney.
Okay.
So he's not like a, gravedigger. He's like a title.
Right.
Introduced many of the tropes present in vampire fiction. It was the first to refer to sharpened teeth.
Okay.
For vampire.
Excellent. We're getting some answers.
With a plunge, he seizes her neck in his fang-like teeth. So, I guess this influenced Dracula. Well, Dracula is like 50 years after this. Right. That's like pretty long, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty long time. I mean, like that's.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's pretty longer than the distance from now to the original Y2K.
Yeah.
So
this is quite a while.
Throwback revival.
Yeah. So did
he just rip off the Varney guy?
Probably did then. Let's see here.
Not ripped off, reimagined.
Reimagined it.
Yeah. Rebooted the series.
Yeah. So this was but I think there was vampire books even before this, like 18th century. I think there's like some Lord Byron vampire book or something. There's definitely an idea that was around. I don't know if they were all recognizable vampires in the Count Chocula sense or whatever. Yeah.
Man, yeah, we didn't have that in Canada either. I would see that one. We'd go on like a trip to the US, but yeah, we didn't really have that.
You didn't try to like buy it and test it out and
smuggle it back over the
border?
Smuggle
back this vampire chocolate cereal or whatever. Yeah.
Cookie Crisp, another one.
Cookie Crisp was another one. Cookie Crisp was pretty good. I remember Cookie Crisp being good.
Well, when you're a kid, they're all quite good, I think. Just the infinite sugar.
Infinite sugar. Doubt I could get through much of that now. But
we came on time still.
Probably about 10 minutes, yeah.
Probably chill for 10 minutes. Okay, cool.
How much are we at?
We're at just under 50 minutes, but might trim a bit up top.
Yeah, we could probably cut a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I'll figure it out later.
Yeah. I always go back and forth on what's the term for this. Like someone was messaging me about this on Instagram. Concept drift, like what like how do you get from an Irish theater director Bram Stoker to like a breakfast cereal like 100 years later? Like what's the term for when things just like turn into something that's like unrecognizable to their
I think it's just the evolution of culture, right?
Original drift. Yeah.
As you were talking about that, I was thinking kind of like, I don't know, Alan Watts speeches, for example, are like now like in Instagram reel music or whatever, like TikTok reel. But like that wouldn't have been too big of a shock to him, I imagine, right?
Yeah, I mean...
Or like Terrence McKenna, kind of same thing.
Yeah,
like,
well that's just like, I mean, I think
it's fairly recent ultimately.
They had a pretty...
right?
I think people 50 years ago already had a pretty good grasp of like recorded video technology. So I don't think they would be like too alarmed by that.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, it's a portable TV with video or something. Like, I don't think they would have been super... Like they're imagining video phones and video
but
pocket device. Like even Dick Tracy had like a video watch in like 30 or something.
But I guess it would be like whatever culture gets created from like.
Well, that's what I mean. Like I think that would be more
like the one step removed from the original remix, where that becomes really alarming.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, if you,
alarming or strange.
I think like if you showed like aspects of 2024 to people in 1924, they would have just been like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like there's like portable movie phones and portable video conferencing and well, I mean, they're really video conferencing was certainly like Zoom level. Video phones were certainly imagined like 100 years ago.
Definitely imagined, yeah.
So no one, and there's like sort of functional robots and stuff like that. Like people probably wouldn't have been too surprised by that. But Count Chocula and Gucci Gang, like I just can't imagine them making any sense of like what is happening.
Yeah.
Like A, what the fuck is breakfast cereal, and B, what is the Gucci? Like you're creating a gang based around an Italian tailor,
right?
Like what? How does this connect here?
Right.
Like Americans are recording music about a criminal association based on an Italian tailor. Like what?
Yeah.
I think that's like about 50 leaps in associative logic that just wouldn't have been made any sense or something.
Right.
Like
yeah. Then rapping about it.
I don't think anything about current music would make any sense to even 100 years ago.
Well, that's probably the fastest engine of cultural drift, right? Music.
Ooh.
Like, I mean, even stuff from like decades forward or backwards basically sounds completely alien, right?
The thing is, like, I don't know if most of what is considered music now, like people from 100 or certainly 200 years ago, I doubt they would even recognize it as like music.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they could like appreciate it, but like their sense of like
rhythm,
just having like a physical instrument that you like synchronize in like a band or orchestra to like produce physical like listenable music in like a performance versus like I don't know, using software to like just create these like weird endless noises. I guess I don't know what to call them. I mean, like it's music in a way, but I mean, if you showed it to like composers in like the 1920s, like would they consider it music? I mean, maybe the most like the futurists. I mean, there was Italian futurists did this thing called the art of noises, where they sort of predicted it,
like electronic music as a whole.
Yeah. I think it's even earlier, like 1910s or something, where they it's considered like the first conceptualization of like electronic music. So again, that's that dude's like a literal avant-garde artist that is just like imagining things which have like very little relation to what any actual musician then would have considered like music, right?
Well, so. in this vein, there's a contemporary artist who's kind of on the opposite side of this thing, where I think I've mentioned him to you before. I think he's French. Worakls.
Okay,
Worakls.
Yeah,
I think.
Okay.
But he basically, it's like European techno, right? But his compositions are quite orchestral. But like it's all electronic, I imagine, right? But like I think he comes from a family of like classically trained kind of like orchestral music.
But so he's trying to like recreate that.
Kind of, yeah.
Well, that's a bit of a different track where you're like deliberately like
it's like you're going backwards almost, right? but it's like it's packaged in techno kind of vocabulary, but it's like using elements of orchestral music like orchestral sounds, just stuff that you normally wouldn't really hear in electronic music.
There's an interesting YouTube video where it's like I think it's like it's like a Kraftwerk concert from like 1970 or something. You know, the German band Kraftwerk, which they're kind of credited as like pioneers of electronic music. And there's one video where they have like kind of footage of them doing this one song that sounds very much like kind of current techno, and you know, almost like incidentally, because they were just coming up with lots of strange things which all kind of went off in different directions. But this one sounds quite modern, certainly for like 1970. And like they're just showing the audience, and like the audience just like no one is dancing, like no one has any idea how to like really react to it, you know, right? Because there's no like there's no like preset, like it's so new that like no one has like created like a specific,
it's just like a cultural void.
It's just a void, right? So like if you, and it's just, I always sort of come back to that, because you're like the comments now are like, oh, this is like, you know, a sick beat. Like, why is no one dancing? Like, what the fuck, right? But again, like most people, like, you know, people were still listening to like, I don't know, 1950s doo-wop or something probably, or like folk music. So, I mean, you come out with like a repetitive techno kind of song at that time, and they're just, you know, even if it's, you know, still performed with instruments, but just like that kind of rhythm and beat and everything, and it's just like what, like if there's no context, then you're like not really gonna know how to dance to it or react to it. And like the crowd doesn't look super enthused, like they're just kind of like milling around, and like what, you know, like they don't they sort of like don't really know how to deal
wearing
with it,
tuxedos and big,
I think they're
big hats,
I think they're just in, you know, street clothes, but you can tell that they're like not like keyed into like how to respond, I guess. Like they just don't really know what to, like they're sort of paying attention to it, but they're not really like moving or like, you know, getting into it visibly.
Well, I'm sure some performers still encounter that even these days. So maybe it was just a bad set on that particular night. Could be. But in any case,
probably have to wrap up there.
Probably have to bounce.
So I might have to finish and continue.
Thanks for listening. Hope it's interesting. Please drop a comment. Please let us know.
And comment.
Just say hi if you're listening. Thank you. Peace. And have a good week.
Peace out.